Hi everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Conspirial. I am your host, Addison Rose.
And I'm nervous.
Hi Nervous, nice to meet you.
Thanks.
On our very first inaugural episode, we decided to really dive into both syllables of the namesake of Conspirial, where we combine conspiracy theories, serial killers, and everything in between. So tonight, we will be talking about the arrest, the life, and the possible death of Jeffrey Epstein. My co-host Anna is going to start. And what do you have for us?
January 20th, 1953, on a cold January day, where the high was 44 and the low was 39, newlyweds Pauline, and a part-time teacher and part-time homemaker, and Seymour, a groundskeeper for the NYC Parks and Rec Services, celebrated the arrival of their firstborn son. A son that would prefer to sleep in a 54-degree temperature room. A son that would grow up to take care of his body by practicing yoga, eating whole grains and leafy greens. A son that, despite growing up middle class, would grow up to own an island and be worth $557 million at the time of his death. A son who, by all accounts, loved having and knowing secrets. A son that would be infamous for child trafficking. On that cold January day, Jeffrey Epstein would be born. Jeffrey Epstein and his brother Mark grew up in a working-class neighborhood called C8, which is located in the far western end of Coney Island. It is primarily a Jewish neighborhood where 80% of its 7,000 residents are Jewish. During the time that Jeffrey Epstein grew up there, it was actually mainly Italian people that lived there, and they actually experienced a lot of anti-Semitism while they lived there. So that's a fun little fact.
I mean, as much fun as anti-Semitism could be.
Right.
You know.
Jeffrey Epstein was a chubby, curly-haired, nerdy kid who would even tutor his neighbors in math. No one could have ever imagined the monster he would become. Epstein attended local public schools, just like you, just like me, with the exception that he was a brilliant student. He first attended public school 188 and then Mark Twain Junior High nearby. In 1967, Epstein attended the National Music Camp at the Interlochen Center for Arts. He began playing the piano when he was 5. He went on to graduate in 1969 from Lafayette High School at age 16, having skipped 2 grades. Later that year, he attended classes.
I think he's a smart motherfucker. That's crazy. Skip 2 grades?
You have to be smart to get away with all that. He attended the Current Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University, but left without receiving a degree in June 1974. Although Epstein never got a college degree, he was able to secure a job teaching calculus and physics at the Dalton School and an Upper East Side prep school. Well, the Upper East Side prep school is the Dalton School.
So he didn't have a degree?
No, he was a college dropout, and he got to teach physics and calculus at this super fancy, expensive prep school.
Huh. Kind of got like a nice compared, because they always say like if Hitler would have went to art school, maybe he wouldn't have done what he did. Maybe if
Did he go to mathematics school?
he got a degree, he wouldn't have been a rapist. Well, allegedly.
Dalton was always known for its rigorous academics, repeatedly ranking among the nation's best private schools. With a reputation like that, it drew children from New York's titans of finance, media, and art. Along the school's alumni is CNN journalist Anderson Cooper, the actress Claire Danes, and the comedian Chevy Chase. There were mixed reports on what type of teacher Epstein was. Some students said that Epstein was a weird, creepy dude, willing to violate and cross lines with female students.
Not Mr. Epstein. Who would ever say that about Mr. Epstein?
Not Mr. Epstein.
Oh, no. Okay.
Other students remember him as fun and engaging. They remember him as an easy A.
Too engaging, some would say.
Right. Former students who attended Dalton during Epstein's short tenure said that his conduct with teenage girls left an impression that had lingered for decades.
Ugh. Well,
One former student recalled him showing up to a party where students were drinking, and that student remembered basically that he went to the party and was just trying to talk to the girls. It's almost strange that so far no formal female student has come forward with any allegations of Epstein making unwanted physical contact with them. It's almost like he was dipping his toes in the water and learning what boundaries to push. Dalton had been a progressive haven for children of artists and writers and was undergoing a shift under a new headmaster, Donald Barr, the father of Attorney General William Barr. He came into the school as a disciplinarian and focused on beefing up academics of the school and enforcing a strict code of conduct. Although he was known for being strict, he wasn't too strict on the people he would hire, as he was the one that would hire 21-year-old college dropout Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently, Barr didn't care about credentials. He only cared if you were interesting and knew your stuff.
Huh, like Donald Trump.
Former students recalled Epstein wearing a fur coat, a gold chain, and being someone that was an unusual figure at school. Students also remembered him wearing bell-bottom pants, platform shoes, big chunky belts, and striped t-shirts. Imagine.
I just want to say, like, if you just took out, like, very singular things of what you just read, he kind of sounds dope. Like, a little bit. Like, obviously, you put it together.
Remember, this is an expensive prep school, too. He would walk in and he would pop his collar.
Fur coat?
Ladies.
Yeah, just dipping his toes in the water, you know? Jesus.
What matters during this time isn't what Epstein did as a teacher for his students, which was nothing. What matters is the connection he made that set him up for the rest of his life. He tutored the son of Alan Ace Greenberg, the Bear Stearns honcho, who would end up taking a chance on the college dropout and failed teacher. Greenberg was quoted saying that he didn't care about MBAs or Ivy League diplomas. What he cared about was raw talent and drive. And Jeffrey Epstein was raw.
And driven. Yep.
So again, without any experience, someone took a chance on him. Epstein joined Bear Stearns in 1976 as a low-level junior assistant to a floor trader. He swiftly moved up to become an options trader, working in the special product division, and then he advised the bank's wealthiest clients, such as Seagram. And Seagram was originally a distiller of Canadian whiskey based on Ontario.
Oh yeah, Seagram's whiskey.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
7-7. In the 1990s, Seagram's was actually the largest.
But if you sponsor us, it's great.
We love it.
I love Seagram's.
We love it. The largest in the 1990s, it was the largest owner of alcoholic beverages in the world. In 1981, he was asked to leave Bear Stearns for, according to his sworn testimony, he pleaded guilty to a Reg D violation. Now, Reg D...
D violation, alright. Starting strong. And so, I just want to... I'm sorry to cut you off, and I just want to kind of apologize to everyone. I tend to make jokes when I'm uncomfortable, which makes me really awkward at funerals. But it happens. So I'm in no way trying to disrespect anyone that he has hurt or anything like that. This is just how I unhealthily deal with feelings. So I am sorry about that. Kind of.
Anyways, a Reg D is a federal law that states that you cannot make more than 6 withdrawals or transfers per month out of your savings account.
You think the D would be a little bit harder on that, you know? A little bit more strict. No?
Yeah. Even though Epstein departed abruptly, he remained close to Kane and Greenberg and was a client of Bear Stearns until it collapsed in 2008. In August 1981, Epstein founded his own consulting firm, Intercontinental Assets Group, IAG, which assisted clients in recovering stolen money from fraudulent brokers and lawyers. Epstein described his work at the time as being a high-level bounty hunter.
That's a lot now. Real quick.
Epstein also stated that to some people during this time that he was an intelligence agent. During the 1980s, Epstein possessed an Austrian passport that had his photo but a false name. The passport showed that his place of residence was Saudi Arabia. Stephen Hoffenberg hired Epstein in 1987 as a consultant for Towers Financial Corporation, a collection agency that brought debts people owed to hospitals, banks, and corporate and phone companies. And I didn't take good notes there, but he worked there. Hoffenberg set Epstein up with offices at the Villard houses in Manhattan and paid him $25,000 per month, equivalent to $57,000 per month in 2020. Hoffenberg and Epstein then refashioned themselves corporate raiders using Towers Financial as a raiding vessel. In 1993, Towers Financial Corporation imploded as one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in American history, losing its investors over $450 million. In court documents, Hoffberg claimed that it was Epstein who was intimately involved in the scheme. Epstein left the company by 1989 before it collapsed and was never charged for being involved with the massive investor fraud that was committed. It was unknown if Epstein acquired any stolen funds from the Towers Ponzi scheme. In 1988, while Epstein was still consulting for Hoffenberg, he founded his own financial management firm, J. Epstein and Company. The company was said by Epstein to have been formed to manage the assets of clients with more than $1 billion in net worth, although others believe that he was not that strict. So he would tell people, I only have billionaire clients, but there was only one publicly known billionaire client that he had, and that was Leslie Wexner, the chairman and CEO of L Brands and Victoria's Secret. In 1986, Epstein met Wexner through their mutual acquaintance in Palm Beach, Florida. A year later, Epstein had become Wexner's financial advisor and served as his right-hand man. Within a year, Epstein had sorted out Wexner's entangled finances. July 1991, Wexner granted Epstein full power of attorney over his affairs. The power of attorney allowed Epstein to hire people, sign checks, buy and sell properties, borrow money, and do anything else legally binding in the nature of Wexner's behalf. Epstein often attended Victoria's Secret fashion shows and hosted models in his New York City home, as well as helping aspiring models get work with the company. In 1996, Epstein changed the name of his firm to Financial Trust Company, and for tax advantages, he based it on the island of St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Hey, Tony. By relocating to the U.S. Virgin Islands, Epstein was able to reduce federal income taxes by 90%. The U.S. Virgin Islands acted as an offshore tax haven, while at the same time offering the advantages of being part of the United States banking system. That typical one percenter. Epstein owned a private Boeing 727 jet that traveled frequently, logging 600 flying hours a year. The jet was named the Lolita Express by the locals in the Virgin Islands because of its frequent arrivals to Little St. James with apparently underage girls. Trump flew Epstein on his own plane at least once, and there isn't a lot of records of whether Trump flew in Epstein's plane. In September 2002, Epstein flew Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker to Africa on his jet. Flight records obtained in 2016 show Bill Clinton flew 27 times to at least a dozen international locations. During Epstein's ownership of Little St. James, the island acquired a nickname by its locals. They named it the Island of Sin and Pedophile Island, as it was alleged that sexual abuse of minors occurred there. That's not sus at all.
There's just so many puns in this whole thing. The Virgin Islands, he had a trust. Yeah, it's just so many connections that are just going off. Sorry, go on.
In March 2005, a woman contacted Florida's Palm Beach Police Department and alleged that her 14-year-old stepdaughter had been taken to Epstein's mansion by an older girl. She was allegedly paid $300 to strip and massage Epstein. She allegedly undressed but left the encounter only wearing her underwear. Palm Beach police began a 13-month undercover investigation of Epstein, including a search of his home. During the investigation, Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Reeder publicly accused Palm Beach County State Prosecutor Barry Krishner of being too lenient and called the FBI for reinforcements. Subsequently, the police alleged that Epstein had paid several girls to perform sexual acts with him. Interviews with 5 alleged victims and 17 witnesses under oath, a high school transcript, and other items were found in Epstein's trash and home allegedly showed that some of the girls involved were under 18, the youngest being 14, with many others being 16.
That's disgusting.
The police search of Epstein's home found 2 hidden cameras and a large number of photos of girls throughout the house, some who the police had interviewed in the course of their investigation. Court documents say that in the search of his Palm Beach residence, a police detective found an Amazon receipt, and in the Amazon receipt it showed books that he had ordered to his home, and some of the books were named SM 101, A Realistic Introduction, Slavecraft, Roadmaps for Erotic Servitude and Principles, Skills and Tools, and Training with Miss Abernathy, a workbook for erotic slaves and their owners.
Don't forget all the coloring books. Sorry.
A former employee told the police that Epstein would receive massages 3 times a day. Eventually, the FBI compiled reports on 40 confirmed minors eligible for restitution whose allegations of sexual abuse by Epstein included corroborating details. Julie Brown's 2018 expose in the Miami Herald identified about 80 victims and located about 60. So what happened is with that first girl that was interviewed.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So that first girl said, another girl at my school told me that I could get easy money from this guy who just wants massages. So then the girl would go and he would ask her to strip naked and he would be naked. They would massage him and then he would sexually assault them and then pay them. And it was like a really sick pyramid scheme. He'd be like, but if you bring me a friend, I pay you, but I abuse them. So he was training all these little girls to bring more little girls into his home. In May 2006, Palm Beach police filed a probable cause affidavit saying that Epstein would be charged with 4 counts of unlawful sex with minors and 1 count of sexual abuse. July 27, 2006, Epstein was arrested by Palm Beach Police Department on state felony charges of procuring a minor for prostitution and solicitation of a prostitute. And why it was these charges is because when he got caught, he told the police, I wasn't taking girls and raping them, that I was paying for prostitutes. These are all prostitutes.
Not raping it.
No. He was booked in the Palm Beach County Jail and later released on a $3,000 bond. State Prosecutor Krishner later convened a Palm Beach County grand jury, which was usually only done in capital cases. He presented the evidence for only 2 victims, so Krishner only showed the grand jury 2 of the 40 confirmed victims. So that's why he didn't get charged a lot more and get a heavier sentence. But
this all is like stinked up with like people that so he's cutting a deal or whatever the fuck. Right?
Exactly.
Bastards.
The grand jury returned with 1 charge of felony solicitation of prostitution, which Epstein pleaded not guilty to in 2006. July 2006, the FBI began its own investigation of Epstein. It resulted in a 53-page indictment in June 2007. Alexander Acosta, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, agreed to a plea deal, which Epstein's defense attorney would grant full immunity from all federal criminal charges to Epstein, along with 4 named co-conspirators and any unnamed potential co-conspirators.
And I really hope all these names are sounding familiar, because these people are still around. That's the worst part about it. All these horrible people are connected.
According to the Miami Herald, the non-prosecution agreement essentially shut down an ongoing FBI probe into whether there was more victims and other powerful people who took part in Epstein's sex crimes. At the time this was halted, At the time, this halted the investigation and sealed the indictment. The Miami Herald said Acosta agreed, despite a federal law to the contrary, that he would deal with him and to keep the deal from the victims. So they copped a plea deal with him, and they didn't inform the victims, which there's a federal law against that, saying that in order to make a plea deal, he has to inform the victims of the plea deal. Acosta would later. So later when they would ask Acosta about this, he would tell people that Epstein belonged to intelligence and it was above his pay grade and to leave it alone. Epstein agreed to plead guilty in the Florida State Court for 2 felony prostitution charges, serve 18 months in prison, register as a sex offender, and pay restitution to 3 dozen victims identified by the FBI. The deal was later described to be the sweetheart deal. On June 30th, 2008, after Epstein pleaded guilty to a state charge, one of two procuring for prostitution of a girl below the age of 18, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. While most convicted sex offenders in Florida are sent to state prison, Epstein was instead housed in the private wing of Palm Beach County Stockade, and according to the sheriff's office, after 3.5 months, he was allowed to leave the jail on work release for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, against the sheriff's own policies, requiring a maximum sentence of 10 months and making sex offenders ineligible for work release privilege. He was allowed to come and go outside for specified released hours.
And I don't even like that he was sentenced to a stockade. Like, what are we in, like the 1700s? Like, they can't still be, like, around a stockade.
Yeah, so Epstein's door was left unlocked. He had access to the attorney room where there was a television installed for him.
It's a stockade for you.
And before he moved into the stockade's previously unstaffed infirmary, he worked at the office of the foundation he created. Before reporting to jail, he dissolved it after he served his time. So before he went to jail, he made up a job that he started a foundation that he decided he was working for, and after he was released from prison, he dissolved that company, so he didn't need his job.
He's a sweet guy. He wanted to help people, get them through massage school.
Epstein served almost 13 months before being released on July 22nd, 2009. For a year of probation on house arrest until August 2010. While on probation, he was still allowed to travel back and forth to work on his jet to his island. And so even though he was a level 3 sex offender, which they should be taking your passport, you shouldn't be allowed to travel, and there's all these restrictions, it was never enforced to him.
So does like level 3 mean like...
That's the highest level.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and you have that for life. Like, there's no way to remove that.
Gotcha. So, okay, that was gonna be my question. I didn't know if level 1 was the worst, but level.
And if he violated these, he was supposed to go back to jail, but nothing happened. Well. So later on, the immunity agreement that he had with Acosta came to light, and a federal judge later found that the prosecutors had violated the victim's right and concealing the agreement from the victims, and instead urged them to have patience. After the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein found out about the shady deal, they sued the government for violating their rights, prompting a federal investigation that would lead to his 2019 arrest. On July 6, 2019, Epstein was arrested by the FBI NYPD Crimes Against Children Task Force at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey on sex trafficking charges. He was jailed at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, which held prisoners such as John Gotti, my uncle Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, and Paul Manafort.
Not her uncle. Not you. Why do you want your uncle to call you?
See how he's doing. Check up on him.
Yeah, but you don't do that to your uncle. I don't call.
In case he's watching.
Like, hey, your uncle hit me up. Like, that's how you talk to
Let me know how
uncle.
you're doing. Right, wing.
You don't do that to an uncle.
Yeah.
No,
you don't call your uncles?
No, that's different.
You're
you
not
call,
your uncle's
you call your
supplier?
uncle. You don't go, call me.
Yeah,
you don't do that to your uncle.
Me. I do.
That's, no.
Yeah, call me.
No, I mean, I'm sure Epstein would do that to his uncle, but not we normal people don't.
According to witnesses and sources, on the day of his arrest, about a dozen FBI agents forced open the door to his Manhattan townhouse. Herbert N. Strauss house, which with search warrants. The search warrants of his townhouse turned up evidence of a sex trafficking ring and also found hundreds and perhaps thousands of sexually suggestive photographs of fully or partially nude females. Some photos were confirmed as those of underage females. In a locked safe, compact discs were found with handwritten labels that included the description. So they found a bunch of CDs with labels where he would put like John Smith plus Jane Smith, miscellaneous nude one.
So it was John Smith, Jane's uncle? No? Okay, sorry.
That she asked to call her?
Right, yeah, and then you get it. But honestly, one of the most interesting parts about that was that you actually said compact disc. I have not heard the term, like the actual term for a CD in forever. Right? Like the compact disc. So that, okay, sorry.
It's CDs, kids.
Right. MP2s. Because they became 3s later.
Some of the photos were confirmed. Oh, already went there.
Mm-hmm.
Also found in the safe was $70,000 in cash, 48 diamonds. I don't know why I thought that was funny.
Such an absurd number. 48.
A fraudulent Austrian passport which expired in 1987 that had Epstein's photo but another name. The passport had numerous entrances and exit stamps.
What do you think his Australian name was?
Austrian.
Children?
Austrian. What?
What?
What? Not wait.
His Austrian name was Lickensay Children.
No.
No? Okay.
I thought you said Australian name because he went down under on them.
Oh. No.
You opened this door.
Good. I can't be the only one saying horrible things on this. You're gonna cancel together.
Anyways, the passport had numerous entrance and exit stamps, including entrance stamps that showed the use of the passport to enter France, Spain, and the United Kingdom and Saudi Arabia in the 1980s.
You say France?
France,
Okay.
yeah. France, España, the UK, and I don't know a Saudi Arabian accent, I'm sorry.
I think that's the only one we can't do.
Okay, good. Don't cancel me.
Everyone else was like white. You could probably do it and be fine.
I don't know.
I cannot.
I'll wait after my 23andMe comes in and see if I have like some Saudi Arabia in me.
Right. Well, with his
Maybe
help,
in the
he could
future
have.
I'll have some Saudi Arabian in me.
Oh boy. Call Jelaine.
No. I don't meet the age requirement.
Ah, shit.
On July 8th, prosecutors of the Public Corruption Unit in the Southern District of New York charged him with sex trafficking and conspiracy to traffic minors for sex. Their grand jury indictment alleges that dozens of underage girls were brought into Epstein's mansions for sexual encounters. Epstein requested to be released on bond, offering to post $100 million with the condition that he would submit to house arrest in his New York City mansion. The U.S. District Judge Richard M. Berman denied the request July 18th, saying that Epstein posed danger to the public and was a serious flight risk to avoid prosecution. On August 29th, 2019, Epstein's death, 10 days prior to the case against Epstein, was closed after Judge Berman dismissed all the sex trafficking charges. However, he expressed support for Epstein's accusers. Prosecutors objected to the ruling and stating that they would continue an investigation for potential co-conspirators. So I want to end my half of the segment by bringing attention to the survivors. Virginia Roberts, Courtney Wild, Michelle Licata, Janalisa Jones, Sarah Ransom, Maria Farmer, Annie Farmer, Jennifer Arauz, and all the other unnamed survivors. These brave women went through unimaginable violence against their bodies, their minds, and their spirits as children. Jeffrey Epstein did not have underage sex with them. Jeffrey Epstein kidnapped, raped, and trafficked these young girls. Like phoenixes, these women have been reborn from the ashes of the justice system that failed them miserably. These women returned stronger and braver and are more powerful than ever, and they became their own saviors by seeking justice for themselves. On the morning Jeffrey Epstein once again chose to be a coward, he robbed them one last time. He robbed them from justice. The only way that I can think to honor the survivors now is by keeping this story alive and not forget that there are a ton of co-conspirators that need to be brought to justice for their involvement in the despicable crimes they committed against children. Believe women, support women, and protect women.
That was a very powerful ending, and I really feel awful for making all those jokes up until that point. I feel absolutely horrible. Wow, that was
Remember
nice.
when I said, do you want to go over our stories and see if they like mesh well? And you were like, no, surprise
Well,
me.
I wanted it to be like, organic, and no, I mean that's good. I mean that's
Yeah.
hey, that's
Now comedy hour.
yeah. Who's ready to laugh? Jesus Christ. Okay, so here at Conspirial, as I mentioned before, she is more of the serial killer, murder, really.
Sorry, this is so stressful.
Is that a candy cigarette?
Yeah.
Way to bring it back. That's what I'm talking about. You have a candy. I was like, what is she rifling with? God, I think I see
Tough
it.
episode.
Did you not pack it? You gotta pack it. There you go. Here you go. Sounds like a maraca.
Continue.
I was sitting here like trying not to puff my e-cig this whole time. I was like, oh no, we gotta get good audio. And here you are.
They know this was a tough episode. They just needed my smokes.
You know what? This is me. Fuck it.
That's so bad for you. You're inhaling like 7 billion toxins and metals.
And you're getting diabetes. What are we doing?
They're sugar free.
What are we doing? Are they?
Yeah.
Are they? God damn it. Okay. So as I was saying before Chomp Hour, I'm more the conspiracy person, and I think this story, from a multitude of different angles, really captured not only our attention but everyone else's, right? And so I'm going to go into a little bit of more of obviously the conspiracy side of this. And so here we go. So what makes a good conspiracy? Because we've all heard awful ones.
Lizard people.
I had that in my notes. I was going to say birds aren't real, which they're
Illuminati.
real. That several have died in my warehouse. Like I know they stink. I know robots don't stink.
No,
okay,
the bourgeoisie.
Well, they stink too, but for different reasons. Flat Earth, right? Another conspiracy that's absolutely.
I mean, have you ever been?
Just don't do that.
edge?
You're gonna fuel that fire, and I don't want. And my next one literally was Hillary Clinton being a shape-shifting lizard person. That was right here. And I was gonna say I really hope I didn't make that up, but she,
Her husband was
she's heard it
definitely
too.
a visitor of Pedophile Island. That's true.
Yep, that has nothing to do with the lizard, I don't think. I mean, maybe the sun, though, because of the cold-blooded.
Sorry. I know this is your time, but Stephen Hawking also would go there.
Which, say what you want about Jeffrey Epstein, but god damn it, his island was wheelchair accessible. How many islands have you been to that haven't been wheelchair accessible? Like, that's incredible, His wheels didn't get stuck in the sand. I mean, yes, what he did was horrible. But he thought of the lesson
He talked
back.
through a computer. He was like, I need 13-year-old, please.
Oh, boy. Cannot compute. Okay.
Anyways. Now you say something horrible.
I'm just going to go back into my notes. But I think the two main items that make a conspiracy, what I consider a good conspiracy, is obviously, the how and the why. And if you can answer both of those pretty well and not sound like a Looney Tune, I think you have the chance of having a very good conspiracy. And I will admit I'm kind of cheating with this one because I kind of have two different avenues that we're both going to be going
I
down.
cheated because I used the Wikipedia.
Well, I mean, you don't got to show them what's behind the curtain. You know what I mean? They have.
I mean, I went out there.
They have resources
spoke
at the
to the
bottom.
locals.
You could have.
I went out there, spoke to the locals.
You could have went to the sources at the bottom.
And I was
of
like,
the page.
did y'all ever nickname this island? They're like, oh yeah, Pedophile Island. It was crazy.
Yeah, it just rolls off the tongue. It's like the
I was
children.
like, Pedophile Island.
Okay, so now that we've heard about the life and the arrest, we're gonna
Sorry,
go.
if y'all hear giggling in the background, it's our producer and director.
Yeah.
Who are also horrible people.
Yes. And we really do it for them. They told us to say these horrible things. We're We're just people.
They laughed.
Yeah, so that's what we do it for. So for the first conspiracy that I'm gonna go down with, it's kind of the lowest hanging fruit, pun intended. It's gonna be the how, right? So how did Epstein supposedly kill himself? And before we go there, we're gonna take like a 3-week detour right before he died. So 3 weeks prior to his death. So on July 23rd, Epstein was found unconscious in his jail cell with obvious neck trauma. Epstein said that it was his cellmate who allegedly strangled him and made him go unconscious. And this guy was actually about to be on trial. Huh? Is he king me?
No. I said kinky.
Kinky. Boy, yep.
Squeeze the sides.
Yeah, you never... If you learn anything from this podcast, you don't press in, you press to the sides. And you always need a spotter if you're doing it alone. Brought to you, but no. So
by rope.
So he said that it was his cellmate that strangled him, attacked him from behind. That's what she
and his
said.
cellmate was that police officer that had been charged with like 4 murders, right?
4 murders, yes, allegedly.
I mean, he's in jail. Isn't that convicted?
Yeah, allegedly. So, unfortunately, no one at the correctional facility believed him, and they ruled it as attempted suicide. Which, if they didn't do this, I think the conspiracy stops right here initially. Because if they just ruled it as an actual attack from a prisoner, he would have been... There's a lot of ifs, and that's the problem with conspiracy too, right? But he wouldn't have been transferred to a different location and put on suicide watch, right? Because he just would have been put in another cell with another whatever, and that would have been the end of it. But what's really strange to me is that we all know criminals who harm children, rape children, that sort of thing, they're always like the people the rest of the prisoners are going after, right? So they're always protected. They're always put in special housing, all these different things, but knowing that Epstein was being charged with this stuff, even prostitution with a child isn't okay in prison. They still didn't put him in protective housing until this attempted suicide, which I thought was absolutely crazy.
You know what I think happened? I think Hillary Clinton became her lizard form.
Right.
And went in there.
Well, see, the thing is, they don't shrink when they're lizard people. They don't.
Were they like prints? Like
no.
They look like hands or like claws.
They're the same. They're the same height. The lizard people are the same height.
Oh, okay.
They don't become lizards. They're lizard people. See what I'm saying?
I mean, you don't.
It's
know
not.
that.
It's not the Geico gecko going in. No, it's not. That's not how. No, it's not how it works.
Okay.
Anyway, so. They didn't believe him, so he was placed on suicide watch. So 6 days later, he was taken off suicide watch. Like, you're Gucci, you're not going to kill yourself.
You're good.
Right, yeah. And he was actually placed in a special housing unit. And this housing unit, he was given another inmate as a roommate, or what are the fuck, is that what they're called? Bunkmates? Cellmates. Roomies? No,
Roomies.
It's a cellmate, yeah. And he was supposed to have mandatory visual checks done on him every 30 minutes of every day in hopes to prevent another suicide. Foreshadow. So 10 days later, which was just 2 days before his death, Epstein has signed his last will and testament. And up until now, Epstein was only putting money in other inmates' accounts to ensure that those other inmates didn't attack him. Which is crazy, because obviously, if he's being charged with of course he's going to be. So he's putting money, and so no one should have been attacking
books.
them. Yeah, and no, into their accounts in prison. So like
yeah,
for
people's
their
books.
Yeah. So he
Everyone's eating good.
Yeah, that rapist money. You know what I mean? That pedophile island money. So
I mean,
he was paying for.
Did he hurt children? Yeah. But can I get some Rice Krispies today though?
Yeah, he's got that spicy ramen.
Yeah.
That I want, you know, that's or candy cigarettes apparently if you don't want to do the real thing. So we all, on August 9th, the night before he was murdered, or allegedly hung himself, I don't want to push the envelope too far just yet, so the night before he allegedly died, Epstein's cellmate, his new one, was transferred out, and he didn't get a new one like he was supposed to, which is against that prison's protocol. If you're on suicide watch, you want to have a roommate. In this particular facility, I don't know how other facilities work, but in this one, he's supposed to have a roommate, and so he was transferred out, didn't get a new one. And the two guards, once again, were supposed to check on him every 30 minutes. Now, supposedly, the two guards that were watching him fell asleep for 3 hours, and when they woke up to check on him,
nice nap.
they found Epstein hanging from his bottom bunk, unconscious. They falsified the records.
So
saying,
from what I understand, they found him like this.
Yeah.
Right?
This guy was six. Epstein was about 6 feet tall, right? And I mean, everyone's seen a bunk bed, right? I mean, they're not that tall, so you can't hang yourself properly, like off the ground.
I mean, I probably
and
could.
You could hang yourself from this desk that we're at right now. It would not be hard for you, but like
it's clear suicide here.
Yeah, clear.
Case
so
closed.
how they would have to do it would be they do like a lean-to method. So like they just tie it to the thing, and you literally just hang there until you're done, until you're out. If you got the will, which is crazy because I'm a punk bitch, so I would stop. I'd be like, no, like I'd be out. Be like, okay, we're not doing this.
Right, never mind.
So after the cops, falsified the record saying that, yeah, we checked him every 30 minutes, he was fine. It was in between, minute 31 and minute 59 that he killed himself.
I did something like that once.
You killed someone in less than half an hour?
No, I falsified some records because my boss told me to.
What?
Sorry, no, not my current job.
This is, okay.
No, it's in the kitchen.
They
told me to write temperatures down for the past week because nobody did. I needed to get that off my chest.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know how the statutes, of limitation occur to.
It was like 15 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean,
I still
technically
think
that's
about
like biochemical warfare with like food. If it's not the right temperature, like you can.
For research podcast purposes, this was a joke.
And we saved it. That's how we do it. Saved it. That's it. You gotta think before you just confess all your sins to the world, allegedly. Joke. Anyways, so Epstein was found dead at 6:30 a.m. on August the 10th. So they went back to view the security footage of what happened in that time. Both cameras that were facing his cell malfunctioned, didn't record anything for those 3 hours.
You should have had a ring.
I don't think it was, as you'll find out, I don't think it was going to be the type of camera that made it not record. But we'll get to that. So the next day, an autopsy was conducted, and according to the initial report that was released 5 days later, Epstein had thrown himself violently off the top bunk. Now, we already kind of established that it's you jump. I mean, how that doesn't you can't violently throw yourself off a bunk bed even if you're 5, let alone if you're 6. I mean, it just can't. Anyways, so and this was actually the first death ruled as a suicide at this prison for 14 years. So they were doing things right.
They were checking on them every 30 minutes.
14 years.
You would think it'd be 15.
Well, I mean, for what he preferred, I would say he preferred 14. Right? Oh, was that what you were saying?
No.
It should have been 15? What do you mean?
Minutes!
Oh.
Because you can, like, kill yourself, I think, in 30. That's, like, a good amount. It should be, like, 15 minutes.
That's so my bad. I misconstrued that wholeheartedly, and I thought it was vibing off what
Jeffrey, you can do it.
So Epstein's body was, I'm just going to dive right back into it. Epstein's body was removed from his cell before pictures could be taken, which is another security violation because they're supposed to treat every death or suicide attempt as an active crime scene. So you're not supposed to remove anything. You can take, obviously, the sheet that was around his neck off to try to resuscitate him, but once you can't resuscitate him, you let it go, just so you can take pictures and stuff like that. So they didn't take pictures, but once the body was removed and taken to the hospital, or whatever the fuck. They took photographs of the room after the body was taken out, and he actually had, and I thought this was kind of cool. He had bottles and medicine that were still standing up on the top bunk. So if you violently throw yourself off a top bunk, I think the key word here is violently, right? Even if you just go, oh, I'm jumping, daddy, like you're gonna knock some bottles off. They're not gonna be standing up. Like
stay there.
Don't you move, because if this doesn't work out, I'm coming back up here. So yeah, I mean, it should have. And they also found in his cell, which I thought was crazy, because he hung himself with his sheets, right? But he also had other materials. He had wires and tubing for his sleep apnea machine. Now, to have a sleep apnea machine in prison, I think is absolutely crazy, because you wouldn't want him to not get his 8 hours. But but if he wanted to hang himself, like, he could have used the wiring. Like, if he really wanted to, like, I mean, like a sheet. Like, I mean, it's just not really adding up in my opinion.
He doesn't seem to be someone who's practical, anyways.
Well, I mean, in his business, he kind of was very. I mean, he had that pyramid scheme. I mean, it's very practical. I mean, as horrible as it was, it worked. And, I'm not trying to condone. I'll get. So with all this information, the New York City's medical examiner, Barbara Sampson, just said, yep, he hung himself, suicide, case closed, right? Even after all that. And so 3 of Epstein's lawyers were like, what? Like, what? No. Like, no. So they went and found Michael Baden, which is actually one of the world's most famous autopsy specialists, right? He actually did work on the JFK shooting, which would be another fun conspiracy video to do maybe later. He did the O.J. Simpson trial. He's done all these high-profile cases. And so on October 30th, 2019, he issued a report stating that his neck injuries were much more consistent with homicidal strangulation than suicide. Epstein had 2 fractures on both sides of his Adam's apple, as well as 1 fracture on the left hyoid bone above the Adam's apple. So they actually did a study that was conducted from 2010 to 2016, so a 6-year study, and found that the hyoid damage was only found in 6% of suicidal hangings. 6%. It's absolutely, it's ridiculous, right? And it was noted that the hanging was by leaning forward too, and not like a straight, what you would think of hanging yourself from like a higher.
There's just so much going on, like violently throw yourself, right, but have the mindset to lean forward.
Yes, and so like even if you lean forward, it would typically not result in a broken cervical bone, which he had. So the neck wound was in the center of Epstein's neck and not under his mandibles as a typical forward hanging, right? Because you're laying, so all your weight's going here, so it would slide up, and just like anything else. And so he actually looked at the actual compressions of his neck, and even though he was supposedly hung with a sheet, the mark that it left was actually more typical with a cord or a wire, like from his sleep apnea machine. And so it actually cut his neck a little bit, and there's actually no blood on the sheet that was around his neck, right? So all this is just real fishy. Just really sketchy.
Someone comes in to kill him. It's like, oh my god, can you clean it up?
Yeah. He looks terrible. I don't want to have that negative light
Jesus.
about it. Now, take care of yourself, Jeff. So I want to be clear, right? I've only done my horrible internet research. I am no way a doctor or have any basic medical training at all. But like I said, it's just fishy. I did not. I wouldn't be here with my Darth Vader shirt and my Pikachu hat if I had. Maybe I would have. Who's to say? So for the first avenue that we're going down, that was the how, right? How supposedly that all went down. Now let's do the why. We've already heard from you a bunch of potential names in his black book or his tapes that he supposedly had.
No, he had them.
No,
they're documented.
Right,
they're there.
That he has, right? So I mean,
The
literally,
compact discs.
you could close your eyes and just randomly pick a name that could have had something to do with his potential murder, right?
Like Stephen Hawking.
I think it would be hard for him to strangle someone. No, he could have pitched the money in. I can't imagine that prison facility being as wheelchair accessible as the island, right? Yeah, because he didn't own it, right? Because Jeffrey Epstein cares about the disabled. He wants to make the disabled people.
I do not approve that message.
I don't approve it either. I really don't. So amongst other names in his book, you have billionaires like Bill Gates. You have presidents from both sides of the aisle, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton. You have the Queen of England's family. Her son that was a big involvement in of the affairs that they had. And so, I mean, she's been on the throne longer than any other English monarch. Like, you could literally go through different types of money to see her age throughout the years in British currency, right? She's been there forever. You're telling me she doesn't have connections? I'm not saying you did it, because I still want to be knighted. Would be dope. But there's just so many successful people and rich, powerful people that anyone could have done it. Or they could have all done it together, and it's I don't know, it just goes on and on.
Think they had a group chat?
Not a lot of talking.
Oh, fuck, they got him.
Not a lot of talking, I wonder.
What do we do, guys?
Maybe
New phone, who's this?
Maybe there's a social media platform that they all use. In Austria. From Lickensay Children. That's a callback. So anyway, and so I don't know, like, what do you think for our first avenue? I mean, do you think this is conspiratorial material? Like, do you think there's any validation or any potential that he didn't hang himself?
No, he did not hang himself.
Yeah, there's
at
no
all.
way.
No,
there's no way.
There's no way.
So
I mean, from all the med training I've gotten from like Grey's Anatomy and Scrubs and stuff, like,
right.
I can definitely say that was fishy.
Yeah, I mean, it stains everywhere. There's too many coincidences that went wrong that shouldn't have happened. So I'm gonna.
All he needed to do was just hang in there. He would have been fine.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm sorry, getting all choked up. So we're gonna put a pause on that.
Just like he did. I get it now. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was late to the party.
Yeah, it's okay. Last words across the finish line. So now that we're done with that avenue, I'm gonna go down my favorite conspiracy theory of this all. And I think, obviously there's not a lot of information on this because, like any good conspiracy, tons of what ifs. But I just want to go down to the fact that there is a chance that Epstein isn't dead at all, that he's actually still alive and still out there, and it's just something that. It's the thing you have to understand, and I know I've made a lot of jokes before, and this is going to sound like a joke, and it's going to sound awful, but I'm really not meaning it this way, but I'm just trying to think of the practicality of it all, is that besides being a child rapist, which he was not only doing this, but what he was really doing was providing a service to these horrible people. It was a business. And I hate to shrink it down to that because of how really horrible it all is, but to a clearly sociopathic type person who rapes kids, I truly believe that's how he thought of all this, and I'm not condoning it. I mean, it's deplorable, but I really think he saw it as a business. He saw people that wanted to fuck kids, rape kids, and he provided them with a service. Now, going into the how of this avenue is that you mentioned previously that it was rumored that he was working with the feds, right? That he was a spook. And there actually may be a lot of validity to that, with how his prison sentence got a slap on the wrist, essentially. 18 months of going in and out, still going to work.
It could be
and
that, or
all
it could be that all these prosecutors were in bed with him, and he just had blackmail material on them.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get to that. And what bothers me most about the suicide or the potential murder of Jeffrey Epstein is that either he was working with the feds to get blackmail on them so the government could have the power, or he was getting blackmail on these high-ranked people so he could have the power. Either way, a lot of blackmail was obviously involved in this, right? So you would not kill someone unless you had all the tapes. If you are a Clinton, a Trump, the Queen of England, you wouldn't murder this person unless you had all the tapes. And I seriously
At least your own tape.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just...
Or your own tapes. I was assuming they one and done.
Well, no, he can't have... oh my gosh, I have 4 minutes before this thing stops recording. So I gotta wrap this up. So you wouldn't murder someone unless you had all the tapes. And I doubt he had only one copy of everything. So however he was doing this, it's just insane. And I would think that he would have a clause that like, hey, if I get murdered, release these tapes. So I truly believe that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. And because he still provided a service. He's provided a service to these people. What are these guys going to go to a new person to get? How do they, how do they know he's not going to blackmail them? Why be in two situations with? It just doesn't make sense. And I mean, do you think the possibility of this being a conspiratorial material?
I think he's dead and alive at the same time.
That's
I think he's
tricky.
the undead.
Huh?
I think he's the undead.
A zombie.
Yes.
Zombie child rapist.
Yes.
Where's the Rule 34 for that? That's horrible. I'm very sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, all we can really hope for, and this really frustrates the shit out of me, and all we can hope for is that Ghislaine Maxwell lives long enough to see her day.
She'll get her own episode. She'll see her day here.
Well, I mean, hopefully she lives.
In this very
prestigious
podcast.
And I hope all the survivors, the women that weren't named, that they at least can have that. And I hope that she releases everything that she can. And she'll probably get a slap on the wrist. But I think her having... She's just as horrible as the rest of them. But if we can get the names of those other people to take them down, that'll really piss the British off. We'll finally end the war from 1770s. No, I mean everyone needs to go down. If Trump did it, if Clinton did it, anyone.
I agree.
We'll piss on Stephen Hawking's grave. We'll rusty up his wheelchair. I don't know. I know he's dead now. Sorry. So yeah, that was fun. I really wish my anchor only didn't give me an hour.
If you want to fact check us, please email us at conspirio@gmail.com if you have any suggestions of conspiracies.
Yeah, anything you want to see, let us know. I hope you like this. Yeah. And there's a lot of fun.
I have one more. If you're Jack Harlow, please email me at conspirio@gmail.com.
I mean, I'll get him too. Just
he won't.
Or you can email
I'm the monitor.
Or you can email me, Jack Harlow. Is that too much? The stare? Alright. Bye, guys. Thank y'all. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, like she said, email us. Anything you want us to do. Any corrections you want to have made. We'll apologize.
We'll have an Instagram and a Facebook next time. Because someone wanted to talk a lot.
Me? You talked for vastly more. Mine was 2 pages. No. You had 9 pages of notes. No.
You can't go,
Yeah.
You told way more jokes than I did.
Well, that's your fault. You should have told more jokes. I don't know what to tell you. It's not my fault you can't tell jokes.
Mine are funnier.
Send us an email. Whose jokes you thought was funnier?
Right.
Conspirial@gmail.com. That's CONSPIRIAL@gmail.com. See you guys.
Bye.